I've had a Laserdisc player here in my home theater for just about 90 days. And so I thought, why not do a 90-day review video where I just briefly talk about some of my thoughts and opinions and experiences having this Laserdisc player here in my home theater setup in 2025. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's talk about some thoughts on having a Laserdisc player for the first 90 days here in my home theater. So first, let me briefly run down the equipment I'm using for the Laserdisc setup here in my home theater. My Laserdisc player is a Pioneer CLD D505. It's actually a Pioneer Laserdisc player more catered for karaoke, with karaoke features, but it does have the one feature that I really wanted for home theater use, which is the AC3 digital audio. So it can play Dolby Digital AC3 Laserdisc. So that's the main reason I have it. It's not the most high-end, most top-of-the-line Laserdisc player you can get, on the used market that people really rave about for home theater, but it's at least serviceable enough, and I was able to find it at Record Exchange and use store credit that I had saved up for like 5 years to actually get it. So that is the Laserdisc player that I'm using, and it's worked pretty well, since I've had it here for the last 90 days. I also have a Marantz DP8700, which is not really a demodulator, but it's an audio processor. So it takes the Dolby Digital AC3 output from the Laserdisc player. This one splits it into the discrete 5-channel analog inputs. Anyways, I use that demodulator or audio processor in my setup to get the actual surround sound discrete channels to my receiver. And then of course my projectors. I have my HT5000 and my Miko, both by Sim2. So the initial impressions after 90 days of my Laserdisc kind of journey here in my home theater, these little like bullet points and stuff, they're not in any specific order or order of importance or anything. It's just as I think of them. But the first thing I want to mention is the nostalgia factor or historical factor. I don't know how you would categorize it, but it's the same idea, I think, is why a lot of people still collect and watch VHS tapes and why a lot of people still collect and listen to like vinyl records. There's this idea, this feeling of nostalgia for some people that maybe are, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, that had Laserdisc kind of briefly maybe in their childhood or knew a family member that had it, and so there's some nostalgia there. There's also the historical collector side of things because it is an obsolete piece of technology. They don't make these anymore. It's from a specific kind of moment in time, a specific kind of like early to mid 80s to like mid to late 90s kind of format, and then it got superseded by DVDs and then Blu-rays and so on. So it is kind of like a collector's item. It is some nostalgia there. So I do have that. I have that feeling kind of wrapped up in it, and it's not the most high quality source you're going to get nowadays, but people do like it for certain reasons. And so I kind of got enamored with that too over the last, 5-6 years. And it's that thrill of the hunt kind of feel too, to actually have found an AC3 Laserdisc player in working condition out there in the wild at the Record Exchange. So that's part of it too. But that's the first thing I want to talk about, just briefly, was kind of the nostalgia and collectors, kind of feelings about having something like this in your home theater. The second thing I want to talk about is the big drawing point or selling point for me outside of kind of, like I said, that nostalgia collector's kind of feeling. And that's the audio quality, and specifically the AC3 Dolby Digital audio quality. That was the main reason I wanted to get a Laserdisc player, and that's been the main reason or main source of like Laserdisc content I've watched here in my home theater. I don't know, I have maybe like 10 or 12 Laserdiscs. I don't have a whole lot. I'm really trying to like keep the collection kind of minimal and not get out of control with it. But of the like 10 or 12 or so Laserdiscs I have here, like if it is 12, like 10 or 11 of the Laserdisc sets that I have are AC3. So really it's like Star Wars and like one other one that's not an AC3 Laserdisc. So that has really been the big selling point for me. It may be a buyer's fallacy kind of thing because I want it to sound better and I want it to be worth my money, my purchase, to get the Laserdisc player here. But I really do feel like, especially on those AC3 mixes, that the audio is just different from more modern releases, whether it be DVD, whether it be Blu-ray or 4K releases. I think the audio just is different, and I think that comes down to a topic, something I've talked about before on my channel, and that is the AC3 Laserdiscs tend to port over direct theatrical audio mixes for a lot of films that have the AC3 badge on them and formatting on them. So you get actual dynamic theatrical audio before things have been kind of like messed with and retooled for near field home theater, home consumption, like they do nowadays. And so I think that's the big selling point for me on Laserdisc is the audio. And again, it could partly just be a fallacy thing, I just am kind of willing that into existence in my own mind because I want it to be that way, because that's what I've kind of got built up in my head over the last 5-6 years. But I really do think it is just more dynamic, more powerful on a lot of those AC3 audio mixes. So that is the big #1 selling point for me, and the biggest takeaway I have for having a home theater Laserdisc player in the first 90 days is the audio mix, and just that dynamic theatrical audio soundstage that you get with these AC3 Laserdiscs that I have here in my collection. Now, onto the viewing experience, it's serviceable enough. Certain releases are better than others, but that goes across the board with DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, or digital streaming even. Just mastering and the way things are processed is different across the board with each studio, each release, each company that, is producing certain films and releases. So you kind of like run the spectrum there, on any sort of like format you may get. But it's still not as good a quality or as high quality as some DVDs, as Blu-rays or 4K releases in terms of overall like sharpness and clarity and stuff just by nature of the format. But on the flip side, you get a lot of more traditional original theatrical video releases on Laserdisc. A lot of times modern releases, especially of classic catalog films, unless it is from a boutique label or it's actually done with a lot of care from a studio, gets image processing and gets like palette coloring and DNR applied to it and over enhancement, with sharpening and detail enhancement and stuff. And it just kind of like changes the original artistic intent, of it. So while you may not have the overall clarity and sharpness, of a more modern format, a lot of Laserdisc releases, in my opinion, at least the ones I've watched so far, maybe look a little more theatrically accurate and traditional, like films that were filmed on film stock and not messed with or changed around for whatever reason later on down the line with later releases. So the video viewing experience is, not the greatest thing in the world, but it's at least good enough. It's serviceable enough, for my kind of taste, here in my home theater and what I'm expecting out of it. Now, going along with viewing experience, I do want to mention one drawback to the viewing experience with Laserdisc, and that is just the immersion of watching a film seamlessly from start to finish. Even on VHS tape, but especially on DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, whatever, but even on VHS tape, you have a seamless experience from watching start to finish, unless there's damage to your tape or your disc or something like that. But all, kind of factors being equal, it's a start to finish kind of seamless experience. But with Laserdisc, you're going to have at least one flip of the disc kind of midway through a film. Now, if a film is longer or encoded differently, you may have to flip the disc multiple times. You may have to change 2 or 3 discs out, when you're watching it. Like the Star Wars Definitive Collection has each one of the 3 Star Wars films over 3 discs. So you have to flip each disc multiple times and exchange discs in and out. Or like in my case, my Pioneer Laserdisc player has an auto flip feature, so it auto rotates the laser to read the other side of the disc when one side is done. So the movie stops, it takes you, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds, whatever, to exchange a disc out or for the auto flip feature to engage. And it just breaks up the immersion. And in some cases, some people may not care about that. Like for me, I usually don't really care about it, but it can distract some people. And depending how the disc was manufactured and kind of processed on Laserdisc, those breaks can be kind of jarring and be at a weird stopping point. For example, the Alien Laserdisc that I have here, the side flips kind of at a weird stopping point. I mean, technically it's like almost directly in the middle of the movie, but I think it's right after they have the chest burster come out. So that like scene immediately happens, and then the Laserdisc player stops and like it flips to the other side instead of going straight from that into like the tension of where is the alien creature after it's run off. It like gives you that abrupt like break. And that I can understand how it would kind of deter some people from wanting to watch Laserdisc, because it does break the immersion, the seamlessness of just starting from A to B, and just going from point A to point B with a film and not having to break it up, like that. So that is one thing I do want to mention that can be distracting when you have to do it, especially multiple times, of just changing the discs in and out and flipping them. It's just part of the nature of Laserdisc, but I did want to mention that. That is kind of a drawback, and a little bit, I guess, of a negative. It doesn't bother me so much, but I can see how with other people it will. So yeah, so just that's one thing that is kind of a drawback, is just the constant interruptions in the film watching experience, depending on like how long the film is and how it's encoded and everything. Now, one final little thing I want to mention about this 90 days of having Laserdisc here in my home theater and the viewing kind of experience in general, I decided to invest a little bit of money, not a whole lot because I kind of sent a lowball offer on eBay and the guy accepted, but I wanted to invest in a little bit of what I think might be video improvement here for Laserdisc, and that was purchasing a DVDO iScan video processor unit that came out around somewhere in the early 2010s. But it's a video processing unit where you can put in analog video sources, and it like deinterlaces and kind of upscales and some things with the image. Now, I generally, for the most part, don't enable features like that and really try and get away from a lot of that in home theater. If you have a Blu-ray, a 4K, or even an analog source, I really try to get around video processing on it and try and just get the raw image up on the screen, when I'm watching stuff. And if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad, and just kind of take it for what it's worth there. But I did want to try this out, at least here in my home theater. In worst case scenario, if I don't like it, I'll just end up selling the video processor. But I have heard some good things about the DVDO iScan series of video processors. And so that is a piece of equipment that will be making its way shortly here into the home theater that I will kind of be playing around with and seeing how that actually looks and how it actually processes the video, and see if it can upscale the image slightly in a positive way and not add negative effects like my Emotiva, AV processor, hub that I had here. But that is something I wanted to explore. I've never used a video processor like that, so I am kind of curious to see how that's going to work. But be on the lookout for that. That is something that's going to arrive here in the home theater shortly, probably within the next week of me filming this and releasing this. We'll see how that goes. But yes, I am getting a DVDO iScan video processor to test out here with my Laserdisc player. Definitely leave a comment down below. Let me know if you are somebody who does have a Laserdisc player in your home theater setup, and just let me know some of your thoughts on Laserdisc if you are interested in that. You can also leave me a comment and let me know if you're not a fan of Laserdisc. Doesn't hurt my feelings. Everyone's got their own taste. I just like to hear from everyone out there. I really do appreciate it. All the comments, all the support. Like I always say, it's really humbling. I really do appreciate what you guys all do for me, with this channel. Definitely check out, I will have my Laserdisc content playlist linked here at the end of the video, so you can definitely check out my other Laserdisc reviews and stuff. I may not be the greatest for that. I generally keep it as like a very average Joe, common kind of person experience. I don't go into a lot of detail, but if you are interested in that, that playlist will be linked on here. And also keep an eye out for more Journey to Endgame content that I'm working on. I have my Miko 50 projector video kind of in the works. I have my new piece of audio equipment, not the DVDO processor, but my new piece of audio equipment that I made a post about here in the home theater, up and running. So that video is going to be coming in the near future. And I am also working on potentially expanding my projector screen that's behind me, kind of maxing out the screen size of what is available to me here in this space to put up here on the wall to really give that immersion, you know, with watching film and content here. Because I kind of played around with it and expanded out the image as much as I could with kind of a makeshift screen. And it's really gotten the bug in me to do that. Also be on the lookout in the next maybe like month or so, because I'm still working on the details, but I am going to have some more content out of the home theater with some places and doing some other things outside of just my initial home theater here. So definitely be on the lookout for some community posts and some videos in that regard, you know, coming up here too. So with all of that out of the way, thank you again, and I will see you the next time in the next video right here on Secondhand Home Theater. Thank you.